Welcome to the Deep Dive, where today we are looking past the splash and getting right down to the data in the world of competitive swimming.
And we're focusing on what might be the most misunderstood stroke of all, breaststroke.
Yeah, if you thought the slowest stroke was just about, who kicks the hardest, you're in for a surprise. We're about to strip performance down to its technical blueprint.
Today is all about one of the most compelling rivalries in the water. It's a true clash of styles, really, embodied by two incredible athletes.
On one side, Adam Peaty of the UK.
The undisputed sprint king. He owns the 50 and the 100-meter events.
And on the other, Qin Haiyang from China, the new master of efficiency, of endurance, holding that 200-meter world record.
Yeah, and our sources today, we've got everything. Detailed biographies, forensic race splits, and even some cutting-edge research on the tech they use.
And the mental fortitude. We can't forget that part.
Oh, absolutely. So our mission is really to give you a shortcut to understanding this whole rivalry.
We're going to unpack the precise technical differences between raw power and, well, maximized efficiency.
And we'll look at how objective data and the reality of mental health are fundamentally changing the future of the sport.
Before we jump in, let's just frame this with a few key stats. It's actually kind of remarkable how physically similar these two are.
Both Peaty and Qin stand exactly 6 feet 3 inches tall.
But that's where the similarities end, right? Their dominance couldn't be more specialized.
Right. You've got Peaty, born in '94, the veteran. He still holds the long course world records in the 50-meter. That's 25.95 seconds. And crucially, the 100-meter breaststroke, 56.88.
He just owns those short, explosive races.
And then there's Qin, 5 years younger, born in '99, and he has completely laid claim to the distance. His 200-meter world record is 2.05.48.
So to really appreciate what they're doing, we need to quickly go over the basics of this incredibly difficult stroke.
Yeah, we really can't talk elite breaststroke without hitting the 3 core elements that both of them have mastered, even if they use them differently.
The first one is...
The most important word in all of swimming is, and always will be, streamline.
Just minimizing resistance in the water.
Exactly. First, you need an incredible, almost violent drive to get into that minimal drag position after every single push-off and every single stroke.
Okay, what's second?
Second is phenomenal timing. That classic pull kick glide rhythm has to be perfect. There's even a tiny microscopic pause in the glide phase, and it all has to happen in that perfect streamline.
And the third element is just raw speed and power.
Right. We're talking lightning fast hand speed as you accelerate through the pull, and an equally fast frog pick where your feet snap right back into that streamline. They both do it, but how they do it.
Power versus patience.
That's the core of it, the whole strategic difference we need to dig into.
Okay, so that brings us right to the rivalry in the pool. Let's start with the 100-meter breaststroke. That's Peaty's domain. That 56.88 world record. It's just mind-boggling speed for a stroke that's designed to be slow.
It is. It's like a sprint executed in slow motion. And to really get it, you have to look at the splits. The physics of it are all right there.
So break it down for us. How did he swim that race?
He went out in a blazing 26.6 seconds on the first 50 meters.
Wow. And coming home.
30.25 seconds on the second 50.
That's a huge drop-off, which I guess is normal for a sprint. But what does that 30.25 split really tell us about his power?
It tells us he's a pure phenomenon, just maintaining speed. Most elite swimmers, if they go out in 26.6, they are collapsing. They're coming back in 31, maybe 32 seconds.
So his strength is just holding on longer than anyone else.
It's sheer top-end power and agility that lets him hold that pace. The sources are clear on this. That 30.25 is his firewall for anyone, and I mean anyone, to break that 56.88.
They need to go faster on the back half.
They need to split a 30.0 low or maybe even dip into the 29s on that second 50. It's a monumental task.
Okay, so now let's contrast that with Qin Haiyang in the same event. He swum a 57.91, so a second slower. But the breakdown of his race is just radically different.
It is. And what really stands out when you compare their first 50 is, well, efficiency.
How so?
Stroke count. Peaty took 19 strokes to cover that first length.
Okay. And
But
Qin?
he only took 16.
16. That 3-stroke gap. That's enormous in a high-level sprint, isn't it?
It's a different philosophy of swimming.
So Qin is generating more distance per stroke, more DPS, with less initial effort.
Precisely, and that reveals his core advantage, superior stroke efficiency. He gets significantly more forward movement for every single pull and kick.
And there's more to it than just the stroke, right?
Right. He also has a slightly better pullout off the dive, so he's actually further down the pool than Peaty before he even takes his first stroke.
So Peaty is just pure high turnover, brute force,
Mm-hmm.
and Kind is using fewer, more powerful cycles to just slice through the water.
The classic power versus efficiency model, and that is exactly why Kind absolutely dominates the 200-meter event.
Or endurance is king.
Absolutely. His world record is 2.05.48. And in the 200, you almost always see swimmers just completely decelerate in that final 50. They hit a wall.
But Kind somehow avoids that collapse. How does his efficiency translate to those 200-meter splits?
This is where his whole strategy just pays off big time. His first 100 meters was 1.00.7.
Okay, creep that.
But his second 100 meters was 1.04.7. That 4-second gap between the first and second 100, that is incredibly tight for this distance. Most swimmers would lose 6, maybe 7 seconds.
So he's holding his speed way better.
Yeah.
What about the last 250s?
This is the amazing part. His last 250-meter splits coming home were 32.6 and then 32.1.
Wait, his last 50 was faster than his third 50.
Yes, that ability to not just endure, but to actually hold his intensity when everyone else is dying, it arguably makes him the most efficiently paced breaststroker in history.
So he's sacrificing that explosive start that Peaty has.
For a sustainable engine that carries him across all 4 lengths, it's beautiful to watch.
It's amazing how technical it all is, but, all that data hides the immense exhaustion and the mental toll, which makes you wonder, what does it take psychologically to sustain that? Let's pivot now to the psychological side and Adam Peaty's very candid journey.
Yeah, Peaty's story is really a modern blueprint for the struggle against burnout at the absolute highest level. After, conquering the sport multiple times, he just faced this barrage of obstacles.
It started with a physical injury, right?
It did. A broken foot during gym training in March 2022. That sidelined him, completely disrupted his rhythm.
And that physical injury then just spiraled into this profound psychological stress.
Absolutely. After the 2022 Commonwealth Games, where he won the 50-meter gold but actually missed the podium in his signature 100-meter race, he experienced what he called severe burnout and fatigue.
And then it got worse.
It did. He missed most of the 2023 season, and he's admitted he went through a self-destructive spiral that involved alcohol and depression. I mean, that's a huge battle to fight in the isolation of elite training, let alone in the public eye.
And even when he clawed his way back to Paris 2024, the bad luck just kept coming.
It's unbelievable. He took silver in the 100-meter, missed gold by a painful 0.02 of a second, and then was diagnosed with COVID the very next morning.
It just sounds like a Sisyphean struggle, just pushing that boulder up the hill over and over again.
It really speaks volumes about the relentless pressure, and he was so honest about how close he was to just quitting. He admitted, I wasn't going to come back at all after the Olympics. I was done.
And he took time to reflect, right? He even talked to Michael Phelps.
He did, who of course navigated his own famous journey of retirement and comeback.
So what was the philosophical shift? What brought him back from the brink?
He really had to confront the harsh reality that elite performance often demands a huge sacrifice. He put it in these really sobering terms, he said. You can't have them all, though. Happiness, world records, and gold medals.
Okay.
You won't have happiness, you won't have balance.
That's a huge takeaway for anyone listening, really. The quest for absolute supremacy often requires a kind of psychological imbalance, and you see that pressure creeping into his personal life, too.
Yeah, the sources do highlight that. Peaty himself noted that adding years and growing family responsibilities, he has a 5-year-old son, and impending marriage, it makes the task of chasing world records much harder.
Right, and dealing with high-profile personal stuff, like the reported family disputes around his wedding, that just adds another layer of mental friction.
It's an external data point showing you the psychological cost of trying to maintain that internal focus.
So he's struggling with burnout, the cost of his career. But then something happened in the swimming world that he called a game changer for his future.
A huge one. The decision by the Olympic Committee to add the 50-meter sprint events, so breaststroke, backstroke, and butterfly, to the LA 2028 program. That was, in his words, crucial to his comeback.
Why is that 50-meter addition such a huge motivator for a guy like Peaty?
Because it plays directly into his superpower. Pure, unadulterated power and speed.
It's his sweet spot.
Totally. He's always been dominant in the 50, which is just about maximizing that initial push and holding on for, 25 seconds. He thrives in that format where, as he puts it, one mistake and you are out.
So it gives him a fresh target.
A fresh, high-visibility target that extends his career. Not just to LA 2028, but maybe even Brisbane in 2032.
And he's aiming for a blistering 25.7 seconds in the 50, trying to shave 2/10 off his own 2017 world record.
Which is just evidence that this comeback is fueled by new, very specific, attainable targets. It gives him a renewed focus on that pure, explosive power, knowing the event now has the highest stakes imaginable.
We've talked about the sheer athleticism, the intense mental game, but the margins here are just so tiny. Which leads us perfectly into our final segment, the digital edge. How is information technology being used to find those microscopic fractions of a second?
Well, for decades, coaching was subjective. The coach stands on the deck and says, your arm looks like it's crossing the midline. Or the athlete says, I felt fast.
Right, it was all based on feel.
Modern high-performance swimming has completely abandoned that. It's shifted entirely from subjective observation to objective digitized data.
So we're talking about real-time measurement of what's happening in the water.
Exactly. The sources detail how coaches now use what we can call advanced data technology. This includes things like smart paddles, the EO Swim Better paddles are one example, GoPro cameras, and even bone conductor headsets.
Like headsets in the water.
Yeah, that give the athlete real-time audio feedback while they are swimming.
So they get immediate feedback if they're applying pressure the right way or the wrong way.
That's the core idea. These tools give you objective data on dynamics and spatiotemporal indicators, basically how and where you're pushing the water. And this allowed researchers to do this fascinating study with 5 national-level breaststrokers.
What do they do?
They use these smart paddles and focus purely on arm mechanics, having the athletes swim 25 meters using only their arms.
So they completely isolated the pull. What key variables were they monitoring?
They were tracking things like left impulse and right impulse.
Which is basically how much force each arm is generating.
Exactly, the propulsive force of each pull. But also hand drag, propulsive time, all of it. And while the short study showed some, incremental improvement overall, the key finding was the discovery of these tiny personalized flaws.
What kind of flaws?
Crucially, the tech revealed that every single one of the 5 swimmers had a significant imbalance between their left and right arm impulse or power.
Wow. Even at the national level.
Even at the national level, these minute asymmetries exist, and they're stealing precious milliseconds and creating unnecessary drag.
That's amazing. You're talking about athletes who train hundreds of hours a month, yet these digital tools reveal an inherent physical asymmetry that was just invisible to the naked eye.
And the size of the asymmetry was often startling. For example, one swimmer was generating way more power on their left side, while another was applying much more force and speed on their right.
So this kind of data lets coaches stop guessing.
It lets them stop guessing if a swimmer is weak or just tired, and start fixing a specific technical flaw, like a left arm that crosses the midline during the recovery.
So the data allows them to design these hyper-personalized programs to correct muscle imbalances and really stabilize the technique. It replaces gut feeling with objective truth.
And this data directly informs the drills they do in training. To make this tangible, the sources described a common efficiency drill that someone like Kinhai Yang would prioritize. It's called the countdown set.
Okay, tell us how that works in practice.
So the swimmer does maybe 8 to 10 25-meter repeats, usually in a short course pool. First, they find their baseline stroke count. Let's say it's 5 strokes for 25 meters.
Okay.
Then they try to work down, deliberately hitting 4 strokes, then 3, maybe even 2, just maximizing the length of their glide and the power of their pullout. Then they work back up.
So they're literally forcing their bodies to be more efficient.
Exactly. It's a low aerobic difficulty set, lots of rest, and it's focused entirely on perfecting that stroke timing, holding the glide, and getting maximum forward momentum with minimal effort. They talk about feeling like they're flying at those low stroke counts.
And that synchronization is the difference between an efficient 200-meter master like Chin and a high turnover power swimmer like Peaty.
It's a whole ballgame.
So bringing this all together, we've seen the statistical supremacy of Peaty versus the technical efficiency of Kin. We've seen the immense mental and physical recovery Peaty had to go through, and the objective truth that digital tech now provides in training.
The success of these athletes, it relies not just on water speed, but on managing this incredibly complex matrix of variables, from split times and arm power output to their deepest personal challenges and mental health.
Right, and Peaty's own admission that maintaining the training volume, I mean, he's consuming 7,500 to 8,000 calories a day at his peak, that it all becomes much harder when you're balancing it against life. That just shows how thin the margin is.
The physical commitment is immense.
But the necessary psychological commitment seems even greater.
It has to be.
So here's a final provocative thought for you to chew on. We've seen how elite swimmers have to manage this tension between striving for world records, which Peaty admits means potentially sacrificing happiness and balance, and the need to sustain performance long term. The data shows us that technical flaws, like an arm imbalance, are objectively measurable and correctable with technology. But if world record level success requires a fundamental psychological imbalance, how do we objectively measure and correct that element in the pursuit of greatness, while at the same time avoiding complete burnout?